Welcome, all true believers. Welcome to the Maximum Marvel Pod, episode 3. I am your host, Jake. With me, as always, is my awesome co-host on so many other things, but now we're going to be talking about things going on in the Marvel Universe. Not as jam-packed of a show today, but maybe we'll stretch it out. I don't know. But there are some big things that have gone down that we do need to talk about. Justice, how you doing today, my guy?
I'm awesome. Another awesome episode of What If. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was a little sad, but I feel like it was good episode in terms of like entertainment. But I'm awesome, man. I feel good. Great to be here with you, bro. How you doing, bro?
Oh my god, dude. I am just absolutely ecstatic because of some things that have dropped. It's a good week to be a Marvel fan. It's a really good week to be a Marvel fan. And of course, today as the show kind of drops on Wednesdays, it is tradition that What If does come out the morning of when we record these. And I think we might. I'm not gonna say I loved this episode. I still think last week's was better. I just kind of liked it a little bit more. This one, I felt like maybe they could have done a little bit like more with it than what it ended up being. Like, I kind of like what they surprised us at the end with, but also I kind of thought that was a little underwhelming. Maybe you could have done a little bit more with that, a little bit something different, but we can talk about that. What If episode 3, if I had to give this a grade, I would say this one was probably about a 7 out of 10. It was above average. It wasn't bad. I still loved last week's episode in the first, and I liked this one more than week 1. What If every single week seems to be doing something a little bit different, to where I don't know kind of what they're pulling together. There were some things in the show, especially the emergence of Loki showing up this week. I liked that. Just so many things that, it took all of kind of like the Avengers movie, and was like, all right, how do we change this up a bit? And the concept of all the Avengers dying, I didn't know what this episode was going to be. I didn't really read the title. I just clicked on the episode and started watching it. And when Iron Man dies, I'm like, okay, so is this like what if Iron Man dies? But then everyone starts dying. And one of the big things that I was just kind of sitting there going like, is like, all right, what are they going to do? I really liked the inclusion of the events of the Incredible Hulk in this episode. I feel like that's a movie that the MCU kind of tends to forget, except for keeping General Ross in multiple movies. But I really liked the inclusion of taking that movie and throwing Mark Ruffalo into it, and kind of, referencing it and getting back at least this is what my girlfriend said. I didn't look fully into it, but the same person who played Betty Ross in that movie to voice Betty Ross in this episode, making me think that maybe there's potential in the She-Hulk series to get Betty Ross back into it, and her and Bruce Banner, kind of getting their loving back on. They get that back on, since it was kind of forgotten since that movie, and they kind of threw in the Black Widow stuff into it instead of having, Bruce being with Betty. Anyway, this episode was overall, I think, decent. The ending, we'll talk about it, but first, before we get into the ending, just your overall thoughts on the episode. You're muted, my guy.
My bad. I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. I would say, yeah, probably around like a 7.5. It was, the first episode was really underwhelming. The second episode was really, really good. This episode was good to me, right? I was very, because the thing I liked about it was that it kind of pushed the narrative forward for like what they're gonna do with What If. Like, because you don't really know from the first 2 episodes. You kind of get Captain America is not really Steve anymore. Is now Captain. I keep forgetting
Captain
her
Carter.
name. Captain Carter. Yeah, I don't know why I keep forgetting her name, but Captain America is not Captain America anymore. Now it's Captain Carter, and then obviously T'Challa is now Star-Lord. So they kind of get like the universal aspect of what's going on out the way, but you don't really know what's going on Earth in terms of, who are going to be the Avengers. And now we see that the Avengers are all dead. And we know who did it, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Mm.
So it kind of gives you more depth, and you kind of know what's going on more in the show going forward. It's like, okay, now we know that Steve is dead, or no, Steve is never an Avenger now. Tony's dead. Hulk is dead. Oh my goodness. Black Widow is presumably dead. We don't know for sure. We didn't see her die on screen. Hawkeye is dead as well. And Thor, that's another thing I didn't like at all. How did a Hawkeye arrow kill Thor Odinson? That makes zero sense to me.
Whatever pushes the narrative forward, Justice. That's the one thing that I've kind of had a little bit of beef with some of these what if episodes, and we've brought it up every single week. It's just kind of like, why did Howard Stark make a Iron Man suit? How did Thanos get turned over just a conversation? How does Thor die by just an arrow? Like I guess, have we ever really seen Thor actually been shot at with an arrow by Hawkeye? I mean, I guess they've never said that he can't just take it right in the chest and die, but I would just assume that he'd be a little bit more resilient than taking one arrow and being out.
He's an Asgardian. He's been to literal wars. Like, he's Thor. He looks for war. You can't possibly tell me that a simple arrow is going to kill a god. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
I guess maybe if you want to take it at what that is, he kind of lost the powers of Thor, right? At that point, because he's not worthy of the hammer with the events of that movie that are taking on. When he goes to grab the hammer, he is not worthy. He wouldn't have been able to pick it up if we're just going based off of what is established already. So maybe that is why he died, because he didn't have the powers of Thor. So he wasn't some crazy, super powerful guy. He was just like a normal guy. So I'm gonna take that as to why he died there.
He was
But
manhandling the shield agents though, so that was kind of like he was like throwing them around.
Oh yeah.
So
Still strong as hell. Still a really strong dude. But
yeah,
let's talk about who killed the Avengers. If you haven't seen the episode yet, click off. Go watch the episode. But
we already told you a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we told you a bunch of stuff, but we didn't spoil who killed the Avengers. I mean, throughout the whole episode, they kind of have you feeling that it's these mistakes that are kind of taking out the Avengers. But in reality, it's kind of mysterious. Like, how is this all happening? Why are all these accidents happening? Well, because they're not really accidents. They are very meticulously planned out by Hank Pym. Which was kind of underwhelming for me. Like, I was really telling like Bree, my girlfriend, while we were sitting here, because we didn't see Captain America the whole episode. I'm like, wouldn't this be a great thing for them to actually do the Hydra controlled Captain America? Like, Hydra is behind all of this, and they have like their own team of Avengers, and they're just making sure that everybody else is out of the picture. There is no real Avengers. Like, I was telling her that when Black Widow turns around and she's like, you can't stop them, you can't, and turns around, I would have loved to have seen Cap, that like Hydra Cap. I would have lost my shit. But no, she starts getting beat up by an invisible enemy, and I'm like, okay. And then it gets revealed to be Hank Pym, and there's some sort of storyline, I guess, in this universe that Hope Van Dyne died during this universe, and he kind of blames Shield for Fury and Shield for this. So he's like, I'm going to take out their Avengers initiative. Okay. I mean, I can see that. I feel like there could have been like some cooler routes that went down. Like, there was no Hydra involved in it. There was nothing like that. It was kind of just, one man deciding to take out. And don't get me wrong, Hank Pym in the comic books, especially back in the day, the Ant-Man was a really, really important part and a very smart and important character. And I could see why they used him and he would be able to do all this stuff, but I just kind of don't get why he was just thrown in there. I feel like there were a little bit better options. What did you think about Hank Pym being the guy who was killing everybody?
I thought it was kind of like, I don't want to say lazy, but
Mm,
it was kind of like an easy out because you get a guy who's not going to be super important to the plot
mm,
points later on in the season because you're going to be dealing with an intergalactic multiversal threat. You got Gamora and T'Challa, who's Star
mm,
Lord, Killmonger, who's Black Panther. Obviously, we got Captain Carter. So, like, we've seen a couple of the Avengers who we know are going to be at the end dealing with whatever this threat is, and
mm,
it kind of seems like they just wanted to get all the Avengers out of the way. And it was like, oh, well, here's somebody, he needs retribution for them killing his daughter, and he's just going to go kill the mightiest people in the world
mm,
because he feels like it and he's mad, right? And that's another thing. Like, Marvel is anytime you're in Marvel and you're evil, it's like you get a power boost. I don't understand it. Like, Hank Pym was just killed all the Avengers, so like
mm,
obviously he's a god tier, character at this point, right? Bucky, when he was controlled by Hydra, he was the most dominant force I had ever seen, and now
mm.
he's not. I mean, he's Bucky, but he's not what he was when he was with Hydra.
Yeah.
Um, Hawkeye, I was watching the original Avengers today. And I was
Mm,
like, when Hawkeye was controlled by Loki, like he was the man, like he was
hmm.
making things happen. And he outside of that, he's kind of really just whatever. But
Yeah.
uh so I thought that was interesting how like anytime a character is evil, they get like a power boost. But as far as Hank Pym goes, I guess it makes sense that I don't really know how I feel about him being able to kill Hulk and like Thor with an arrow, but for the
Oh
plot, I
yeah.
guess it moves it
We
forward.
didn't I didn't even we didn't even bring up how the Hulk goes out, right? One of my favorite scenes in all of the MCU is that scene where all of the army fires on that bridge where the Hulk is, and in that he busts out and like just goes absolutely ape shit on all of their vehicles and shit. Like that's one of the best moments in the Incredible Hulk movie. And I felt like it was so much lamer, like at this point when they did it. Now that we're not even started, just this scene alone. Usually there's like smoke that kind of fills up the thing, and they're like, "Oh no!" Did they just take out the Hulk and then he busts out of the glass and goes absolute ape shit? This time it was just like Black Widow goes, "Oh, I'm gonna dive out the window," and then it just
And
shows the
land
Hulk.
perfectly.
Yeah, and then it just shows the Hulk in there, and he jumps out of that already broken window. I'm like, "Oh, come on, dude!" And then he like he got shot right with a bullet, and it was like, "Oh, okay, like whatever that is." But apparently, it was Hank Pym, and Hank Pym says, "Well, if this could kill Macho Man Randy Savage, then it's gonna kill the Hulk." So he enlarged his heart, and the Hulk blew up like a balloon and exploded. What the hell? Like that is so weird. Like I was not expecting like my girlfriend was looking at her phone for a second and like I told her I was like I think the Hulk is going to explode and she like looked up and the Hulk was just like a fucking balloon and he
Hmm.
exploded. I was like so they showed that it enlarged his heart, but did it just inflate him like a balloon?
Yeah,
Like
that's what I was confused about too.
yeah, like I don't know. Like if his heart just exploded, that would make sense. But no, it was like, no, we're gonna make it a little campy and just have him fucking explode into green like mist or some shit. That
Powder.
was
I don't even know what it
yeah.
was.
it was
It was
that was kind of weird. But I overall the episode I think was pretty good. But the question is to the people, what did you think about What If episode 3? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was the worst? Do you think it did some disservice to some characters and maybe overserviced some characters that didn't deserve it? Make sure to tell us down below.
Well, what do you
Justice,
mean by over service some characters?
overserviced as in like you're talking about Hank Pym
Oh, being
being
OP.
absolute. OP'd. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's not the only thing that dropped this week, Justice. There was a lot of stuff that got dropped this weekend. It was kind of a little saga. We've talked about it. The Spider-Man No Way Home trailer was, being rumored. We had some intel that, kind of told us what we might see in the trailer. And then a leaked trailer came out, an unfinished CG render of the trailer. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, don't go watch that trailer. It's not finished. It's not the way that you're supposed to see the trailer." And I'm just like, "Shut the fuck up. I understand it. You're a cinephile. You're like, "Oh, it got leaked out. That's not how it's supposed to be seen. Oh my god, the studio's probably shitting themselves." Well, guess what? I'm a Spider-Man fan, and this movie's supposed to come out in what? Under 4 months, and we hadn't gotten one trailer for it. Like,
Nothing.
sorry, dude. Like, that movie was supposed to come out this summer, and it didn't because of the pandy. So I don't even want to deal with anybody telling me that, oh, there's a version of the trailer out online. I'm gonna fucking watch that no matter if it's in 140p. Like, I don't even care what it looks like. But then after that trailer gets leaked, the real trailer comes out after CinemaCon, and boy, was it glorious, Justice. All of the intel that we had was not everything that was in the trailer.
It was
Like
very accurate though.
yeah, it was very accurate. It had a few things left out of it, but it was a very accurate trailer. Uh, my God, dude, where do we even start with this trailer?
Pumpkin ball.
Yeah, see, I didn't even. Okay, so it starts off. Let's just go right over it. It starts off there. Peter Parker is laying on a roof with MJ, and they're like talking about it. And apparently, like they make like a joke that, oh, Spider-Man has MJ hypnotized, and his spider powers do that too. Just garbage that you would read in tabloids, in newspapers. And then it goes to Peter like going to school, which this is crazy because him going to school, like you would think after all of that, Peter Parker would not step foot in public
Why would you?
anymore. Yeah, like you would think that you're like everybody, it's going to be super awkward, right? Like,
People think you're a
and
murderer. Like,
yeah,
I
people
mean,
think you're a murderer. Yeah,
a
okay, well,
superhero murderer at that.
yeah, so I'm going to just go back to school because of my education. But one of the big things that we see is, people and friends of Spider-Man's group are being, interviewed. Friends of Peter Parker, Aunt May, like people being interviewed because, they're trying to figure out, did Spider-Man actually kill Mysterio? And one of the things that we see is maybe Charlie Cox's Daredevil. A lot of people, throwing that out
Matt
there.
Murdock.
There's been a lot of rumors saying that Matt Murdock is going to be the one representing Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So I really like the idea of Matt Murdock being in this movie, just as kind of like a little wink, wink. Daredevil is in this universe.
Kind of like the Miles Morales, his uncle being in the
Yeah,
episode or the movie. I'm sorry.
yeah, in Homecoming.
Yeah,
Yeah, Donald
Prowler.
Glover playing the Prowler. Yeah, I loved that. And there's some people saying too that lady that's in the back of that car that Peter's talking to on the bridge might be Maria Morales, Miles'
Yeah,
mom.
I did see that.
I kind of like the little setups of maybe Miles being in the universe if that happens, just because one, I'm wearing a Miles Morales t-shirt. Like I love Miles. I think that that's one of the things that in time, once maybe they age Tom Holland out of the role, maybe they want to have something new and fresh. What's new and fresh? Throw Miles in there. Fan favorite. Like it's not like anybody's actually going to have a problem with, Miles Morales actually being Spider-Man in the MCU. I would love that. I love Miles just as much as I love Peter Parker. So,
So
uh,
there's a really good theory that I
hmm,
I, I think it's a pretty good theory. I think this could very much happen. So there's a theory that whatever happens here, uh,
hmm.
Tom Holland, his Spider-Man, he gets caught in like a another dimension, another reality, whatever type of thing, right? And so he won't be, because it's No Way Home, so he doesn't get out of this by the end of the movie. So Doctor Strange's movie, Multiverse of Madness, this is where Peter gets rescued in that movie, right? And so then there's a theory that the next Spider-Man movie will be about Miles, and he'll come in and kind of take over the Spider-Man role until Stephen Strange can get or Peter Parker out of the other
That
situation.
I like that. I really do like that. That would be an awesome thing if that actually does happen. Just the thing is, when it comes to Miles' setup, they haven't really set up Alchemex or anybody the spider that'll bite Miles. Like they kind of haven't established any of that yet. I would like to first like meet Miles, like kind of just like Miles still being normal, and then eventually do a movie where Miles is an integral part of the story with Peter, and then you kind of do the Peter teaching Miles how to be Spider-Man type thing, kind of like what the Spider-Man PS4 game is doing. And I really like the way they're setting that up because, I mean, you might not want to believe it, some people, but that Miles Morales PS5 game that came out that they just did where it was all about Miles was just as good as Spider-Man PS4. Like
Really?
Miles can carry a story, and it's pretty fucking awesome. But back to this trailer, right? Like we're seeing that he goes to Doctor Strange to be like, "Hey, can you help everybody forget that I'm Spider-Man?" Because he just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And Wong is like, "Strange, don't do that." And then he's like, "Okay, whatever." And then Wong leaves because Wong is always leaving. It wouldn't be a Doctor Strange movie if Wong didn't just leave. And then like Doctor
He has
Strange
to
is
go
like,
fight the Abomination.
I guess so. I don't know where these timelines kind of end up, but just kind of wink, wink to Peter, like, yeah, I won't do it, whatever. So then they go to do it, and then Peter's just like, wait, everybody's gonna forget. And this is the one problem I have with this because we heard the trailer, and I was like, that's kind of lame if that's how the multiverse gets broken. Is just that, Peter's like, wait, no, they got to remember. Like, they got to remember me, right? And it's just kind of like you said the other week. It's just show them that you're Spider Man again. They're not forgetting you. They're just forgetting that you're Spider Man. So just be like, hey, I'm Spider Man. They're like, oh my God. And then you're back to
Right.
normal. Like,
Exactly. You get to shock
so
people again.
yeah, exactly. So I don't get that, but the big thing in this trailer is Spider-Man is he's on a bridge somewhere, right? And we get shots of what looks like electricity and sand swirling around Spider-Man, and then we get to see what is probably the greatest thing it made me pop because we knew Doc Ock was going to be in the trailer, but we did not know that this was going to be in this trailer. And I'm going to play it for the people that are watching on the edited version of when I clip this. I'm going to put the clip of what we're talking about right here before we even talk about it. So you're going to see that right now. And Justice, the
Wasn't that
motherfucking
amazing?
pumpkin bomb. The motherfucking pumpkin bombs and the laugh. It's the laugh for me, bro. Like, he's here. Norman Osborn's Green Goblin is here.
That was
Like,
always my favorite Spider-Man villain, personally.
bro, like this is Spider-Man's number one villain. And they're getting the guy who has been the most successful in portraying them. I mean,
For
no
sure.
disrespect to Dane DeHaan and his Green Goblin and Amazing Spider-Man 2, but nothing touches Willem Dafoe. Nothing touches Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. And there's a theory going out that these aren't the exact versions of the characters that we remember from those movies. So that's why Electro isn't going to be blue and why Norman Osborn apparently isn't going to be in the biker costume. I've showed you some pictures that have leaked out of what they kind of look like. And he has like a shroud around him, the purple shroud that he puts up and everything. Like, I cannot wait to see this version of Green Goblin. But after that, of course, we see Dr. Octopus and the arm come out and smash on the ground, and we're all like, oh shit, okay, Doc Ock is here. He looked a little bit weird. The CGI looked a little weird, but I mean, Alfred Molina does not look like the same Alfred Molina from like 2004. So like I don't blame that. They had to de-age him. And the thing that I loved the most was just the hello Peter. And that's the thing that we got to talk about, because a lot of people are saying that, and I personally think it's trickery. It's Marvel doing what they do with trailers and making you think he's saying hello Peter, and then showing Tom Holland changing into the suit. I think that he is talking to Tobey Maguire when he says it so casually like that. Like, all the Spider-Men are there. He looks, he sees his Spider-Man, and he goes, hello, Peter. Like, that is, but that's I mean, a lot of people are rolling with that. I think that that is what's going on there, just because we don't know what part of the movie that takes place in. Does Doc Ock already know this version of Spider-Man? Like, how does he know that Tom Holland is Peter Parker? Like, maybe he would have to learn that.
In that moment, right after Doc Ock said hello, Peter, and then it showed him changing into his uniform, wasn't that the black and gold uniform?
No, I believe it was the Iron Spider.
Okay.
He changed into the Iron Spider uniform, which there's a lot of suits in this damn movie. And somebody actually, and people have brought up that the black and gold suit might actually be to fight Electro.
Electro, yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, I like that. I think that's cool. Like, Spider-Man notoriously does that, where he upgrades his suit to, be able to insulate himself from electricity when he fights Electro.
Or fight specific villains. He'll have like
Yeah.
a specific suit that goes very well against fighting them. So like,
Yeah.
he has the tech.
I'm just so excited for this trailer, Justice. This movie itself, it didn't show Toby and Andrew, but my God, it might as well have just
Not yet.
Yeah, they might as well have just said that, hey, Toby and Andrew are in this movie, because everything's leading, and we didn't even talk about it. There's like a scene that a lot of people are trying to break down. They don't know what it is, but Peter seems to be in it kind of looks like a sewer or an underground tunnel, and something comes out to try to attack him, and it hits like a Doctor Strange protective like bubble thing around Spider-Man. And some people are saying it's Venom. I don't believe it's Venom, just because they're using villains that hate Spider-Man, and Venom doesn't really have that connection to Spider-Man. I think it's 100% the Lizard just jumping out from the dark trying to hit Spider-Man. And, there's just so many cool things in this trailer. Justice, what did you think about this first Spider-Man trailer, man?
I think to your point about not seeing, Toby or Andrew, I don't think they'll show that in the first trailer. I think maybe we'll get a glimpse possibly in the second trailer, because we know Marvel has a history of not saying a whole bunch in the first trailer, like in the Eternals, where they told us absolutely nothing. Yeah. It was kind of like, okay, so now there are Eternals in the world, I guess. And then the second trailer, they answer some questions that we had. And even like Civil War in the first trailer, there was no Spider-Man. We had no idea. And then obviously the second trailer, they showed us. Yeah. So I can see maybe a couple surprises coming in the future with that, depending on when the movie, actually drops. Can we talk about how irresponsible like Steven is though? Like, you are the protector of our universe, of our
Sorcerer
reality.
Supreme.
Yeah. Why are you doing a spell, a scary and difficult and potentially harmful spell, according to Wong, who has been here longer than you? Why are you doing that type of spell to help one random person when you admitted yourself you would let this person die if it came to protecting the Time Stone? So I mean, I can understand, you have that camaraderie because you saved the universe together, but that seems really irresponsible, and that kind of seems like the opposite of how Doctor Strange works.
Okay, so I don't know if we want to go into that. We'll do that right here. Let's before we get into this, what did you guys think of the Spider-Man I keep saying Far From Home, No Way Home trailer? What did you think about it? How psyched are you for the villains and everything that we might be seeing in it? Do you think we'll see Toby and Andrew at all? Do you think we'll see them in the second trailer? Make sure to let us know down below. Justice. So you just brought it up. Stephen Strange was acting a little bit weird in this. It's a little weird for Stephen Strange to act like
Wait,
this.
you're not gonna say what I think you're gonna say.
I think you know exactly where I'm going with this, right? So this is based off of the story Spider-Man One More Day, right? And in that story, Spider-Man goes to Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange is like, "Hey, look, I can't do it for you. I'm not strong enough. But you know who is strong enough, Justice?
Dun dun dun.
Motherfucking Mephisto." So, a lot of stuff. There's some trailers saying that one Doctor Strange. He has a different look throughout the movie, and some people are saying, "Well, what if that isn't Doctor Strange? What if somehow this is Mephisto being Doctor Strange, like posing as Doctor Strange, trying to break the multiverse on purpose?"
Like, seriously, think about it. From what we know about even Stephen Strange before he became Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
and then what we know about him once actually became Doctor Strange, he's not exactly like the jokey guy. Like,
Yeah.
he's serious. I'm protecting the world here. Leave me alone. Don't touch that. You know what I mean? Like, he's super serious guy. But now he's wearing like his college sweater. The Sanctum Sanctorum is just broken open. They haven't fixed it yet. He's like he has the mug that says "for Fox's sake." Like, it just seems a little silly to me.
Does seem a little bit weird.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if maybe he was Mephisto or possibly a Skrull, or I'm not sure. We could
maybe a alternate version of Doctor Strange from another reality. Like, and purposely wanting to break open these realities, because Doctor Strange narrates the trailer, right? And at one point he says, you get what you ask for or wish for, Parker. And I'm like, that seems like a pretty nefarious line. Like, that's not something that Doctor Strange is just like, well, I did it for you and I fucked up, so you get what you wish for, Parker. Like, there's something a little bit weird about that. I don't know, and a lot of people. Okay.
Sorry.
So just like, what exactly is going on? Doctor Strange is a little bit weird and a little bit reckless in this movie. So when you hear something like "you get what you wish for, Parker," and some people tried to say that no, that wasn't, Doctor Strange. Like, somebody tried to say that it was like James Franco narrating. I'm like, they're not going to do the James Franco's not going to be in this movie as Harry Osborn. But I don't know. It just seems really, really weird. And especially that line in general is the one that kind of perks my ears up to, hey, something's off with Doctor Strange in this movie. And I don't know what it is. And maybe Wanda's been doing something with that Darkhold that she wasn't supposed to do. And that person gets out and says, well, if I'm going to be doing magic and stuff to fuck with everything, who should I pose as? Oh, probably one of the strongest magical beings in the Marvel universe, as Stephen Strange. So what do you think about that?
Real quick, I know everything that happened in Loki, where obviously He Who Remains let the timeline branch into everything else. So now I'm confused. Is like, did he let the timeline branch into the multiverse? Did Stephen Strange open up the multiverse? Or is it possible that because he let the multiverse branch out, the timelines branch out into the multiverse, then when Stephen did the spell, there were multiple different timelines that were able to be brought into this reality because there were now branches in the multiverse? So do you think that they, come together or have anything to do with each other, or two totally separate entities?
So I think that nothing like this ever happened because there was one timeline. And then what happens is, once He Who Remains, or Kang, we'll just call him Kang or Immortus or whatever, once he is gone and the timelines start to branch off, that's when these other versions of Spider-Man and things like that in their universes, these ultimate timelines of other places where the world has learned that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. So when Doctor Strange decides to erase everybody's mind of Spider-Man being Peter Parker, it branches into these other timelines where people knew that Spider-Man was Peter Parker. And that's what opened these portals that then brought these villains into this version of the timeline that we know. So, Doctor Strange, when he does that, I don't know if it breaks the multiverse as much as it just opens portals to other other universes where the same situation has happened. So maybe that explains why these characters don't look the same as they did in the other movies, or why some of them are still bad guys and their character arcs, like why Norman Osborn is still alive and why Doc Ock is not dead. Like I think that it's more of just an opening to the portals. It's not really broken. I don't know really if it breaks it. I think the real breaking of the multiverse is going to happen in the actual Doctor Strange movie.
Okay. All right. So when I was reading about Ant-Man, I saw that they said there's a possibility we won't see Kang again until season 2 of Loki, and then that kind of goes into Ant-Man and
Yeah.
Quantumania.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that. Like I would rather Kang be all over the place, because he is all over the place. Like I don't want him to be just the main villain in Ant-Man and then he just sprinkled up. You know what I mean? Like if he's gonna be the big baddie, I want him to be like the big bad, and I want him to have his influence everywhere. Like I want him to be who Kang is. So with that being said, I don't know. It seems like a lot of different ways that the multiverse is breaking, right? Like you got Wanda trying to find her kids, you got Kang letting the timelines branch out, we got Doctor Strange, doing the spell, we got probably something is going to happen into the multiverse. So I don't really know like how all of it matches up. Like, do they all happen at the same exact moment, which I highly doubt, because that's just unrealistic, right? So I don't know, I'm just really curious to see how they're going to bring all this together and make it all make sense, especially with the time jumps and everything else.
I 100% think that we probably won't see anything when it comes to Kang until Loki season 2, but that's when they're going to go full out Kang, right? With all the different variants of Kang, and then the one that's going to be the most dangerous one will be the one that is stuck in the quantum verse in Ant-Man 3. I think that's going to be the one that it's like a more dangerous version of me will come to do all of it over again. And that's going to be the one that they find in the quantum verse, who then decides to go out and conquer every universe and go back onto the fulfilling prophecy of one of them will eventually conquer all the other ones and be the one that keeps a one timeline in the way that he wants it. So
They're just opening up the MCU to so much. Like I really can't even get a grasp of like where Kevin Feige is headed. Like at least not one specific destination, because you got Adam Warlock is going to be coming in the next Galaxy movie, Guardians movie, excuse me. We got Mephisto is obviously he's going to make an appearance at some point, because that's just where it's taking us, right? Doctor Strange is becoming a power player. He honestly, well, there's like a viral clip on Twitter about the Strange and Thanos fight, and Strange held his own against 4 stones at that point. I believe it was.
Yeah.
Was it 4 or 5?
I think it
Because they were
was
protecting the time stone, so it was 4.
yeah, it was
So
4.
he held his own against a 4-stone Thanos, which leads me to believe that he would have crapped all over a regular Thanos without the Infinity Glove. right? So that tells me Doctor Strange is already one of the most powerful people in the multiverse, right? And then obviously you got Wanda realizing her Nexus abilities and her just becoming the
The
power
Scarlet
source that
Witch.
she is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. And then, I could see potentially Galactus coming. So, oh my goodness, the Eternals. We got the Celestials coming. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's the Watcher is here, and what if, like, there is so much happening, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and then the implications that what if are putting on the table. We have the Collector.
Mm-hmm.
He's now like a power player, right? Because we know Thanos is dead, but
Yeah.
now he's a good guy. So man, look, there's just so many directions to go
Bro,
in for. I don't, and then the Fantastic Four is coming in, so Doctor Doom has to
I
come in.
was I was about to say we've been talking about Fantastic Four, but don't forget too, the X-Men are coming to the Marvel Cinematic
Magneto,
Universe. Yeah.
absolutely.
So think about, well, there's some people that are saying in Multiverse of Madness, there's going to be other cameos from. They're saying that they might have the X-Men and Hugh Jackman in that movie as a version of Wolverine.
What
Like,
if in the Eternals we get them going back in time, or I don't know about it back in time, but I
mm,
did see like Egyptian kind of influence in the movie.
him.
What if they have some type of interaction with Rama Tut?
Mm,
And he obviously he wanted to be the mentor for
yeah.
Apocalypse, right? So what if we get Apocalypse influence in that movie, which leads to mutants?
The X gene and everything, dude. There's just so much shit
So
that can be
much.
going. There's
Oh
so much stuff like like introducing the X-Men, and then you're bringing up Mephisto. You know what connects to Mephisto? Ghost Rider. And you know what also, because they've already name dropped it, vampires and stuff in Loki,
yeah.
what they've been going down. So that leads to Blade, and they're
Mhm.
gonna be doing the supernatural. And Mephisto is literally the reason why Ghost Rider exists. So if they do bring Mephisto in, they're going to do a version of Ghost Rider eventually, which is one of my favorite characters. I love Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I like
But
Ghost Rider.
like I just, oh my god, there's so many implications for what Marvel could be doing, especially when it comes to this multiverse. But the question is, everybody, what do you think is going on in all of this? Do you think it's Mephisto? Is Doctor Strange Mephisto? Is that actually what is going on in the Spider-Man trailer? Make sure to let us know down below. And what implications you think it has on the rest of the Marvel universe going forward.
Jake, before we move forward, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. I'm going all totally off topic, but like my
Nah,
mind is
go
racing
ahead.
now.
Go ahead.
I have so many questions, right? Okay, so we know that Magneto is the father of
Quicksilver
Quicksilver and
and Wanda.
Wanda. So I don't know if that is continuity in the MCU because I know we saw them have parents as a kid, but were
Yeah.
they adopted or were those their actual parents?
They haven't said that they were adopted. They were picked up after their parents died. So I don't know if they
But
did.
didn't they get their power from the Infinity Stone?
Yes.
So
They
that would
got
allude that
yeah.
Magneto isn't their father, I would assume.
Yeah, but what they're saying is that the powers that they got from the Infinity Stones actually just unlocked
Unlock.
their latent powers that were in there. So they
Okay.
still could be like, hey, those were people that found Wanda and Pietro, but their real father was the foil to the X-Men and one of the most powerful villains in the MCU, which would not surprise me that if they do a phase where the X-Men are introduced, how Magneto and maybe Doctor Doom and they get some power players together, that it's like, hey, we gotta stop these guys. So I would love for them to like introduce that canon of because we kind of know, right, that Pietro and Wanda are mutants. I mean, they haven't said it, but we kind of know they're mutants. They just have never had legally been able to use that term, but that is what they are. So I'm 100% banking that they might still use that canon, maybe to introduce Magneto and maybe find some way for that to introduce the X-Men. But I also wouldn't be mad if we saw Patrick Stewart and
Ooh,
Hugh
not at all.
Jackman in Multiverse of Madness. That would be great. But Justice, we got something else to talk about. And I feel like we're talking about it every single week. Goddamn Venom 2. Venom 2. What is going on with this movie? So now I'm gonna put this up front right now. Before we recorded this, reports came out from Variety that the date that Venom 2 has been moved to is not official. They have not made that decision yet. But you have to think that with the amount of reports that were leaked yesterday, that there is some sort of validity, that Sony is thinking about this. And I think it could be a smart thing. But Justice, Venom 2 reportedly being pushed to January of 2022 in the original where they were going to have Morbius come out. They are now moving Venom to that said slot. It moving to January, in my opinion, is a good idea just because one, there's still a lot of uncertainty in the whole movie space. We don't know how Shang-Chi is going to do. I don't know how other movies that are releasing are really going to do. Eternals itself, but Spider-Man, I'm pretty sure with the amount of 91 million views in the first 10 hours of that trailer being up, I think it is safe to say
People are
that
gonna go see it.
the people, if it's only in theaters, people are gonna go watch fucking Spider-Man. It's not going to bomb at the box office. And I think Sony kind of knows that. And they're going, okay, look, so if we put this movie out and we attach a Venom trailer to the beginning of it, which is a Spider-Man character that people are interested in, and say, hey, this movie coming out next month. Maybe it drives up the interest for people to go then see Venom in January instead of Venom coming out in October with a little bit less hype and not having Spider-Man attached to it. Maybe putting it out after Spider-Man. And then if you see what Spider-Man can do in theaters, and if that props the box office back up to numbers where we were seeing pre-Pandy, then, and for people that don't know, I can't say the P word on YouTube because they will demonetize videos if you even say the P word now. So it's ridiculous. But when you have Spider-Man come up, if it does lift the box office back up to there, if you attach a Venom 2 trailer, which has Sony attached to it and it has the Marvel branding on it, if you then say, hey, this movie comes out next month, I think that the box office they would have with that is much higher than it would be if they actually stay with their October release date.
Yeah, I guess I understand it only because the pandemic, you don't really know what's going on, and Sony
Justice, you
doesn't.
said the P word, man.
Oh my goodness, I
It's fine.
just heard you say it too, but I with the pandy going on, everything is a little out of order. You
Yeah, it's
don't
out of whack.
really, yeah, exactly. So it's hard to kind of get an idea of what numbers you might do, but the thing about pushing it to January is you don't really know where we're going to be, and things might be even worse than they are now. So it's bold. We'll see, how it works out for them. I know that things are. I don't think things are supposed to get better in the wintertime, so that'll be interesting to see how that happens. But I just want to see the product, man. I know Sony doesn't have a Sony Plus, and they don't have the money to just test a big huge product like Venom the same way Disney does. And Disney kind of got, I don't want to say lucky, but they got a little, it's favorable that Shang-Chi is the movie that's coming out because he's he is new to the MCU. Not many
Yeah.
people know who he is, so he doesn't have like a massive following where it's like we know we're going to make a ton of money on this and we're not going to get the full return on profit or whatever. So I see why Venom is doing that, because they're scared, and they should be scared, because if that movie bombs, then that's a major blow to everything that they got going on.
And if that movie bombs, and then maybe they start getting cold feet about Spider-Man, which they have attached an actual release date to of December 17th. They have not, like, they have like a placeholder date for, Venom. Right now it's been delayed to October 15th, I believe. But sources now saying that it could be pushed into January. I think that maybe you feel better if the first movie you have coming out, to test the waters to see if the box office is back, is a big named movie like Spider-Man. I think that maybe that makes you feel, and plus it's attached to Disney, and that just kind of props it up a little bit more. And you kind of test the waters of the box office with that movie, and then you put out your movie that Venom is a lesser movie than Spider-Man.
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah, like we know that the Venom movies are not big box office bangers, but it's still a movie that, a lot of us want to see. And a lot of us kind of think that with Sony now rebranding their Spider-Man universe as the Sony Spider-Man universe, you have to assume that eventually they're going to connect with Spider-Man. So I'm wondering, they keep pushing back, Venom and now if
Morbius.
Venom gets pushed to January, that means Morbius gets pushed even further. You got to think, okay, do these movies really not have that much? Like, they must not be that important to the story that Sony is trying to tell if they can just keep pushing these movies back, but they just won't budge with Spider-Man because, one, Spider-Man's part of the MCU. So Disney has probably just as much say into, hey, we need this movie to come out around here, because Disney is still set in stone with Shang-Chi coming out in theaters, and they're going to do Eternals in November, I believe is when
I think it
Eternals
is
comes out.
November. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, they have Doctor Strange, and, they're keeping it moving. So I think that maybe Spider-Man kind of gets stuck there, even if Sony would like to push back Spider-Man because they want to make as much money as possible on it. I think that kind of, Venom, they can do that with Spider-Man. They can't. And I kind of just have a feeling that Venom is it's going to come out. Like, we're going to get it eventually. But I feel like the best chance it has to make more money is in January rather than coming out before Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man could change how everybody views the box office and movie theaters during this pandy. So,
Very true. I feel like Sony is in a very uncomfortable spot right now because they
mhm,
are doing the whole Sony Spider-Man universe, and they literally have to loan their best character to Marvel just so that he can gain, popularity and traction
mhm,
for them to finish off what they're doing, because obviously the goal is to get where Marvel is, right? And to, have your universe be super duper productive and popular, and end up making billion-dollar movies, which well, Spider-Man probably would have been
mhm.
pre-P Pandy.
Yeah.
But I don't know anymore. I could see it high 700, million.
Yeah.
But um they're in a really tough spot because if Venom bombs, the whole thing bombs, because
Hmm.
then I mean, it's really hard to bring the popularity back of something that bombed really hard.
Hmm.
So to do a third Venom movie, it would be significantly less budget, and it would be very, very risky, because if that bombs, then you're definitely out of the
Yeah.
game. Like, you might as well just sell Venom to Marvel. So I think that is a real risk here, is losing the whole thing entirely. So I think that they're really cautious with what they're doing with their movies right now, because if these movies don't get good returns, if they don't get good reviews, then the whole thing fails.
Exactly. And you got to think they also have future projects with these movies as well, with Craven the Hunter, and possibly still a Black Cat movie that they want to do with Silk and Black Cat, other characters that they want to do to build the universe. Um, I I just don't know. I think it's smarter for them to do it after Spider-Man. I think that that's the best bet, and you cannot afford to have a movie like that bomb because, like you brought up, like, Disney can handle, a movie like Black Widow or Shang-Chi. Like, they're a billion-dollar company. Sony Pictures isn't that. Sony, they take a risk, like not a huge risk, but they still like they don't have all that money to be like, if Venom flops, like that's a big
We'll
loss
be
for them.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a major shot if Venom flops.
exactly. So, what does everybody else think? Do you think that Venom 2 is going to be moved to 2022, or do you think Sony bites the bullet and keeps it in October? What do you think? Let us know down below. And we are going to be moving on to the next topic, which will be our final topic of the day. And something that I kind of just want to get your it's not something that I'm expecting you to, be, because you've brought it up. You're not a big DC guy. But I did bring up, DC Fandom is coming up this year, which I will implore you, Justice, please watch DC Fandom this year, because they're going to be showing off a bunch of the new DC projects. Black Adam with The Rock is probably going to be shown off. They're probably going to be showing off The Flash, more of the Batman that is coming out, just more of their plans going forward and things that they want to do. Maybe some Shazam 2 trailer stuff that might get released, because they did announce it last year. But just overall, one of the big ones shown at CinemaCon was a little sizzle reel for the Batman. And I kind of just want to get your take, because I know I've heard you say that you liked the Dark Knight movies with that version of Batman. Have you had a chance to check out the Batman that is coming out with Robert Pattinson?
Was there like a trailer or something?
Yeah, a trailer came out like last year.
I did last year.
Yeah.
You know what? I probably did see it, and I just can't
Mm.
think of it right now. But I know when I saw that Robert Pattinson was going to be the Batman, I made fun of it a little bit,
Yeah.
only because he's from Twilight or whatever. But
Mhm.
I heard a lot of great things about just his acting overall and who he is. So I'm not going to be too skeptical of it. I'm gonna give it a chance because the Batman story is timeless. It's
Mm.
perfect. Like it's kind of hard to mess up, honestly, because it's so known by everybody. Um, I mean, I don't know if we'll have to sit through another alley scene. Probably, I would imagine so.
Yeah, I would assume it's probably in it. It's the
Yeah,
origin movie. So, but
yeah.
the good thing about this movie is it's not really Batman becoming Batman, right? It's not him, his parents dying, it's not Batman Begins. It's not him learning and then becoming Batman. This is Batman, like there's a comic book series and a whole story which I might implore you to read. Batman Year 1, which is kind of, Batman's been doing this for a little bit, but he's kind of small time. Batman isn't, the big time. He's just getting his rogues gallery. He's kind of street level. Like he's still a myth. People don't believe in the Batman. Like he's not. No, he's not. If you can think back to 1989, where everybody's giving Knox, the reporter, a bunch of shit for a guy dressed as a bat going around. But this is kind of what that is. This is kind of like Batman is kind of unknown and he's being brought in, and the villain, it's going to be a more gritty type of Batman movie, which is something that I like. I kind of like these grounded in reality Batman movies. And what they're doing is, at least from what we've heard, the Riddler is going to be done for the first time since Batman Forever in the 90s. And this is going to be kind of like a serial killer version of the Riddler, who leaves notes with victims and Batman has to stop him. It's going to be like a crime thriller movie. And I just cannot wait for it. Robert Pattinson. We have talked about, I think I talked about, I went on like a rant after one of our shows one day, and Robert Pattinson was really good ever since Twilight. He gets a bunch of shit for being in those movies, but you can ask Robert Pattinson himself. He does not like those movies. He hates those movies. And ever since then, Robert Pattinson has kind of been in indie art house films, kind of like building his craft as becoming an actor. And you just got to point to The Lighthouse with him and Willem Dafoe. If you don't think that Robert Pattinson is a good actor, just go back and watch that movie, and you will see how much that man has grown from just being a weirdo teenage vampire he is a man now. And I believe, is going to absolutely kill it as Bruce Wayne. I think he's kind of got that look and kind of that charm that, Bruce Wayne needs. But just from the trailer alone, which I guess if you haven't seen it, Justice, then you need to go watch it. This Batman is a little ruthless, and he is taking no shit from anybody. And I think that he's
So he's comic
absolutely,
book Batman.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's not the only thing that I want to talk about. One of the big things is The Flash. And we've talked about it. You watched the Snyder Cut. How much justice they did to the Flash character in that movie it brought a tear to my eye. Actually, I am not,
He
ashamed.
reversed time as
Yes,
the world was ending.
exactly.
That is next level stuff.
They are absolutely, he brought character to and showed how powerful the Flash is in comic books. Like, the Flash has been part of some of the most pivotal moments in comic books. And for him to reverse time, it's kind of like, yeah, that's what the Flash does. He has that power. So he finally gets his own movie. This movie's been in development hell for a while. And there's a bunch of stuff that we're supposed to be seeing in this movie. Like, this movie is supposed to be kind of like, how Spider-Man is to the MCU, like all these characters coming from different points in time of movies we've seen in the past, coming in and now converging in this movie. That's what the Flash is for DC. In this movie, supposedly from leaks, we will be seeing Superman in the movie. Apparently, Henry Cavill possibly returning as Superman. We will be seeing Supergirl in this movie. We will be seeing Michael Keaton returning as Batman for the first time since Batman Returns in, just what Batman Returns came out in like 90, 94, 93. That was the last time that Michael Keaton played Batman. So he's coming back as Batman, and it's supposed to be him, as an older Batman. They're going to be doing a version of the Flashpoint story where Barry goes back in time and saves his mother from dying, and that changes the entire timeline. And also in this movie is supposedly going to be Ben Affleck's last time as Batman in this movie.
Wasn't Dr. Manhattan in that?
And what?
That storyline where the Flash goes back and saves his mom, and the whole timeline has changed.
No, Dr. Manhattan. I don't remember him being. Maybe
I do remember a story where Dr. Manhattan was introduced to the DC universe, and that was, I guess you'd call it, the Nexus event that changed everything.
I think really the big villain of that is the Reverse Flash, who then gets absolutely murked and shot in the head by Thomas Wayne's Batman, which is something that's awesome. The big part of that story was Flash then comes back to an alternate timeline where Bruce Wayne is the one that died instead of Thomas and Martha Wayne. And I guess I should just tell you, go watch the Flashpoint movie on HBO Max, Justice. It's awesome. But Thomas
Is it live
and Martha
action or animated?
No, it's animated. It's a really awesome animated movie. So that whole storyline is crazy, right? The fact that they're adapting it into a movie itself is crazy. So Bruce Wayne dies in that universe when Barry comes back, and Thomas Wayne ends up becoming Batman, but he's a ruthless Batman who uses guns and he's very crazy. But then from the grief that Martha Wayne has from Bruce Wayne dying, she becomes the Joker. And that is something that's really awesome in there. And in that movie, the Atlanteans and the Amazonians.
Wait.
Yes.
Did you say Martha becomes the Joker?
Yes. I'm telling you that the movie is absolutely
on HBO Max.
Yes, it's on HBO Max.
You're watching that right after this.
It's awesome. And the best thing about that movie is at the end, before Barry goes to fix everything and let his mom die again and let everything go back to normal, which is heartbreaking in itself. Flash finds Batman and keeps calling him Bruce, and it's Thomas Wayne, and Thomas Wayne is not he is wondering why the hell this dude who can run super fast is calling him Bruce, his dead son, and is the reason why he becomes Batman. And once Flash kind of explains to him, and it takes a while for the Flash to kind of, uh, get him to, come to the fact that, hey, I'm from a different reality.
Hmm.
When he's telling him about it, at the end of the movie, Thomas Wayne gives the Flash a letter to give to Bruce when the Flash resets everything back to normal. And I need to know how they're going to adapt that in this movie. That's the big thing, because if I think they're not going to have Thomas Wayne, which I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan would have been an awesome Thomas Wayne Batman. But I think they're going to have Michael Keaton kind of send a letter back to Ben Affleck's Batman. But in the story, yeah, Thomas Wayne sends a letter back to Bruce Wayne, and Bruce opens it and says like, "Oh, this is my dad's handwriting." And you see Batman actually, like, a tear drops onto like the letters he's reading it. It's one of the most emotional, great things in comic book history, and it's just kind of like, it's such a good movie, and I can't believe they're adapting it into the Flash. It's going to be just, I think that's going to be for DC what the Flash, or what Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be for Marvel, because it involves the multiverse, different timelines with different heroes. So just hearing that about the Flash, dude, how do you feel about that? Just to end this week's show off, what do you think you might be thinking about the Flash?
Well, I was actually gonna go check out The Flash on Netflix, just because I was like, I know Jake always talks about DC. I might as well brush up on my DC. So I
Oh,
was
the
gonna do
show?
that. Yeah, is
Oh,
that
okay.
like? Are you recommend that?
So the CW show, I would say it's good the first 3 seasons, and then everything after. I don't even watch it anymore. It's still on TV, and I cannot watch it. Like CW, I don't know what it is about their shows being good at the start, and then they just lose their writers over time, and those shows just get absolutely horrible. But the first 3 seasons of The Flash have a lot of his rogues gallery in it. Let's not get it twisted. The Flash has some of the most awesome rogues gallery in the DC, along with Batman. He's got King Shark, he's got Gorilla Grodd, he's got the Reverse Flash. Like,
Will it
there's,
show me the full scale of Flash's like power
yes,
or
yes, yes,
Barry's
yes.
ability?
Every single season, the Flash has to get faster. That's always the problem. Is the Flash needs to get more and more powerful, because these more powerful villains keep coming. And that's kind of like the antithesis of what the Flash is in the comic books. Is the Flash, like, it gets to the point to where the Speed Force is one of the most important things in the DC, because the Speed Force kind of controls everything. So yeah, I would definitely recommend watching probably the first couple seasons. Um, Once you get past like season 4, though, it starts to drag a lot. That's kind of like when I stopped. But yeah, definitely watch. Like, if you just want to know how powerful the Flash is, watch the Flashpoint movie on HBO. Or if you don't have HBO, find another means of
No,
watching
I
it.
do. I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch that right now, actually.
Yeah, dude, you won't regret it. It's one of my favorite DC animated movies, and I don't own every DC animated movie because there's a ton of them, but I made sure that I have the Flashpoint Paradox on Blu-ray. Like, that is just one of my favorites to pop in and just watch every now and then, just because of it is the quintessential DC story, and probably one of the most important stories when it comes to the Flash. And then, of course, there's big things kind of like Avengers Endgame type stuff with Infinite Crisis and Crisis on Infinite Earths, which has to do with all the different timelines and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
I've seen parts of that.
yeah, so that's a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I hope that everybody has enjoyed. This has been episode 3 of the Maximum Marvel podcast, where we also talk about DC and other things. I was going to talk about Star Wars today because I watched the making of Mandalorian season 2 thing, but I don't believe Justice has watched that. And just to keep that
There are
non-spoilery,
certain like things that I haven't caught up on, like Star Wars, Star Trek. But I'm a Throney. I'm a Game of Thrones guy, huge Game of Thrones guy. I love like Watchmen, Invincible, The Boys. Like there's plenty of nerd stuff I do like. It's just that the big huge ones like the Lord of the Rings, not quite there yet. Stuff like that.
I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy. Like my girlfriend loves those movies, but me, whenever I pop in, she tried to get me to watch the extended editions of those movies, which are over 4 hours long each movie. Like, I'm sorry, Peter Jackson, good director. I cannot sit through a 4-hour long movie of them going to be like, let's go on an adventure. Now, I will say this. I love the Hobbit movies, which are like the prequel movies before the Lord of the Rings. I actually like those more than I do Lord of the Rings. And some people, don't like that, but I kind of like them a little bit more. But no, Star Wars has always been a big thing to me. I watched the making of the season 2 finale, which again, just in case you're ever watching it, I'm not going to spoil it, but it made me cry. Just being a fan of Star Wars for so long, I sat on this couch behind me and I cried a little bit. It was not what I was expecting to do today. I watched What If, and then right after it, I watched that, and it was absolutely beautiful. And for the people who do know what that is, then, good on you. I hope that it made you feel the same way that it made me feel. But
I think I'm going to get into Star Wars. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and they're still making content. So like, why not?
I told you, I'm going to do that project for you where I'm like, all right, this is what you need to know about this movie. Watch this fight scene. Okay, now this is what you need to know about this. Watch this and this. Okay, like I'm gonna have clips and everything. It's gonna be a whole PDF for you, and then I'm gonna be like, now go watch this entire movie because this whole fucking movie is awesome. But Maximum Marvel 3, dude. This is awesome. Every single week we do this, and we are going to keep doing it because guess what? Marvel keeps coming out with content, so we are going to keep coming out with content. Hawkeye coming up. We've got Shang-Chi, like we've got the Eternals, we got Spider-Man, like dude, so much content. Eventually it's just going to be where Marvel content is just every single week there's something new to talk about. They're going to have a new show. Like before you know it, Loki season 2 is going to be upon us and we're going to be like, holy hell, dude, like the theory crafting for Loki is going to be so awesome. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening to episode 3 of the Maximum Marvel podcast. And we will see you guys next week in a flash.